What's up, guys? Chef Dave here with something a little bit different. Maybe something we'll do a little bit more of down the road. But today we are going to give you a chef's take on the movie The Menu. So, to start off, without giving, I don't necessarily want to give a ton of spoilers out, but although be warned, there are going to be some spoilers in this video. Um, but I just want to kind of talk about because I was really looking forward to this movie. I just conceptually I thought it kind of wild, and I like how the advertising and even the trailers kind of left you with like I don't really know what was going to happen or what the even the premise was. You knew that there was some violence involved. On an island of this destination restaurant filled with the typical people in one of those restaurants, if you will, the finance people, the Uber foodies, the famous people, the regulars of sorts, and then you had the kitchen that's it's kind of set up in that brigade system and everything. So in your mind as a chef, I think you kind of have an idea of where this might go or what might happen, but you don't really. So it was really fun to sit down and kind of let the movie develop and kind of see where it all went. And I will tell you this, the movie did not disappoint. I enjoyed it tremendously. It's funny because, the food landscape of today has so many extremes, some for good, some for bad. It all kind of depends on which side of the coin you're on, I guess. But it's all rather interesting. And the movie really kind of touches base on many of them, which I found wildly entertaining. Again, in the dining room, you had the atypical people that, to be honest, most chefs either find annoying or embrace. It opens with the super foodie that knows every little thing about food and restaurants and chefs and is just super obsessive. A lot of times it's cool and it's interesting that people take that much of an interest in it, but it's also like uber annoying, especially when that type of guest starts to interject themselves often. It's almost like they're showing off. Again, it's a little extreme in this movie, but I think they did a great job of portraying that. The other set of guests were the finance bros, as we call them, high fivers. Everything's about money and how much you paid, and there's those annoyances, that come with those guests that are always interesting. But what they did in the movie is they kind of exasperated that of like, hey, these guys are finance bros, but this is why they're awful. And then you had the regulars who are just kind of a loveless marriage type couple, which you see all the time. And you had I don't say failing, but the over the hill artist or actor, I should say in this case, that is kind of trying to cling on to the fame of sorts. Isn't doing a great job of it. I mean, he does this pitch. By the way, John Leguizamo, God bless you, I love you. I think he did such a wonderful job in this movie. He like pitches this ridiculous like eating show, travel show during the dinner to assistant. It's so ridiculous. It's funny. It's so ridiculous. And then on the flip side of it, because it really sets it up as like, I think in one of the trailers, Ralph Fiennes, who also does an amazing job, kind of puts it to you're either on their side or our side, and meaning the kitchen side or the guest side. But the movie does a really great job of presenting this extreme kitchen and how you only care about this thing, and whether it be the ingredient or the chasing of the perfection of sorts. And I think they did a really good job of depicting that without getting too fussy with it, which I actually thought was really good. They hit some, like, some high points of like the Paco jet, like different techniques and alginate and things like that, which, as a chef, you're like, oh yeah, especially if you're like a chef who has dealt with a lot of that stuff before, it makes it even more interesting. But the dynamic that plays out for the menu, if you will, is, man, it is super interesting, and it's just really well thought out. It's macabre, obviously, but it's like it tackles both sides of the bad in a lot of ways, because it's not just the guests who are awful. It's, I think, to me, this is kind of the first movie that's really hit all the points of how terrible in truth the restaurant industry can be. And I say that with a loving heart. I do love the restaurant industry, but there is a lot to it that can be kind of rough, whether it be the gas or this extremeness that happens with chasing perfection and what it does to you as a chef is very interesting. And then they even dabble in ownership and how awful that can be, being held under someone's thumb like that, and how they have the control over your creative freedom, your art, if you will. They even hit, sexual harassment in the kitchen, and how that dynamic can play out, especially in these, haute cuisine kind of places where a chef or someone in charge can really make your life miserable because you're so in contact with this person. So they did a really good job of touching on these things. Not to give away the ending, because I don't want to do that, but the ending, it has to do with, which I found hysterical, but the ending has to do with s'mores on one hand, because I don't think there's a chef in this country who hasn't done their version of s'mores, which I just think was genius on their part. But it also has kind of, I think there's many lessons, but I think one of the lessons is really about when you were happiest and what were you doing at that time that made you the happiest. And it really kind of touches on that as well. There's many nuances again in the movie that I think everybody could take something away from this movie, which I found extremely interesting and extremely different than a normal movie. Again, it hits home to me because I'm a chef and I've been in this business for a long time. But I think it'll make you look at things a little bit differently, or at least for a moment. You might not change your life, don't get me wrong. I think you'll ask yourself, am I this character in the film? I put myself in Ralph Fiennes' position, throughout the movie as being a leader in a restaurant, and what have I done really well? What have I done really badly? And at what point was I the happiest? I think that's a question that every chef should probably ask themselves at some point. This career can get you down, so asking yourself what you're cooking for, I think, is a great question. And it's not always easy to answer. So I think they did a great job with the movie. If you have a chance to watch it, I think you should. So get out there. The movie's called The Menu. I won't go over the stars. Hopefully, I didn't, mess it up too much for anybody. But get out there and watch it. It's really, really freaking good. Again, guys, if you like this content, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Peace.